Good morning, everybody. I originally wrote this script before I had finished a Pocket Cat video, but due to the short deadline and shenanigans, I didn't get it recorded until a day after it came out, today. The next video I'll be working on is Godhusk, unless something happens in the next week or so. Who knows, my No I'm Not a Human video was a last minute decision thanks to a Discord tip. I'm going to spend a couple of days planning the next Fear and Hunger lore video as well because I'd like to get some art for that done. Probably not as much as a Pocket Cat video, but at least a cool thumbnail like the Logic video. Well, that's why I'm planning it out, to get a better idea of what art it'll need, if any. I've honestly been a bit hesitant to work on Fear and Hunger lore videos because the update is going to be a lore nuke, but I've felt that way for every lore video since the Sun God videos back in like June 2023, so there's no point waiting around. So, onto today's topic. You may have seen my posting on X about the Pocket Cat video, but I'll tell the full story here since it ties in. I woke up on Wednesday morning on the 11th with a sponsorship offer that required a video to be out between the 13th and the 19th. The next video I was working on was Pocket Cat, and I had some art from the incomparable Jiro. The game footage I had already recorded, and I had a rough outline for the script, very rough. Basically, the outline was basically a list of things I wanted to cover and the order I wanted to cover them, but no actual writing of the script done. The issue was, because of the 1 week Patreon exclusivity that I always do, I needed to finish early access version by the 12th. I had about 2 days, because of the time zone differences, to finish the something to show Patreon. I almost said no to the offer because of that, but instead, I got inspired. I was inspired by the cracked tech heads on X whose motto is, you can just do things. So I decided to just do it. I worked almost every waking hour on it and got it done at record speed. That being said, the early access version of my videos are usually very close to the final version, if not just straight up the final version. And the one I did for Pocket Cat was very, very rough. It was just the laid down tracks is what they call it, I believe. It was laid down tracks being just throwing down footage in when the appropriate thing is being discussed without much flair. So we talk about like Lagarde and throw up a picture of Lagarde. I found out later that the sponsorship is delayed until next year, and while that is annoying, that short burst of time where I had to rush to finish the video was really fun, and I learned a lot, actually. But yes, the point of today's video is my work processes and how I've been improving them. I usually don't have deadlines for my videos. I just try to work as hard and fast as I can. But because of this deadline, I work the hardest and the fastest I have. And so I'm going to do that again. Some people just like deadlines, and I guess school assignments engraved that feeling into my brain that I can't work without one. Another thing I've been trying lately is the Pomodoro Technique. My concentration and focus in the past has been pretty bad. So too much scrolling the timeline and video games and YouTube on the second monitor has fried my brain, I think. So I wanted to try some techniques for focusing, and the Pomodoro Technique comes highly recommended. So I've been using that for about a month and a half now, maybe 2 months. It's good, it's really, really good. The gist of it is you break your work into chunks. So you work for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, 25 minutes, 5-minute break, 25 minutes, and then the final break is a bit longer. The usual time is 15 minutes. And then you just loop back around and then just keep looping. So the time can be tweaked and be a bit longer, a bit shorter, but the third break always needs to be longer. So you know how you're working and you have an urge to check your phone or do something like that? Having the timer makes it a lot easier to put that off. So I'll sit there and I'll be working, and then I'll have to pause for a second because I have to wait for something, and I think, oh, I'll check my phone. But I'll look at the timer and I'll go, well, I've only got 15 minutes left in this chunk. I'll check it during the break in the chunk. And then I just keep working for that extra 15 minutes or however much is left, right? And that was one of my biggest issues. Taking a quick look at X or doing something else that goes from a minute to 30 minutes in an instant. And then all of a sudden you've wasted a whole lot of time. And the Pomodoro Technique really, really has helped me with that. Something else it helps me with in particular is that when you're feeling bad, I find it a lot easier to say, well, I'm not feeling very good, but I'll just do one chunk and then I'll see how I feel. I'll do a 25-minute chunk and then, we'll see how we go. But then all of a sudden, I've done a whole morning's work, So I often feel that way. I often feel that I can't focus or I'm too depressed to work. It's been a big struggle for me for a very long time. As long as I can remember, to be honest. I've had times where I haven't been able to do anything for 6 months with it because of it. And the only thing that helps me get out of that funk is work. It's just working. Despite feeling bad, working through it. So I've gone to psychologists, I've had meds, I've tried working out, and nothing else helps but getting back into work. Well, I will say that working out does help, but it's more of like a slight, it raises the mood floor, right? So I still feel bad, but I don't feel as bad. Doing creative work though is like turning a light on. It's like flicking a switch. It's almost instant. Once I get over that initial hump of I don't want to work, as long as I push through that, then I feel so much better. Sometimes it'll be a couple of days where I'm just miserable and I'm still working, but after it always works. It also always works. So for example, today, not today. Today as in when I wrote this script, which was like 2 weeks ago now. I decided to take it easy after really pushing myself to get early access done. I felt dog shit all day. This is on my break day, I felt dog shit all day. And playing video games did nothing but make it worse. It wasn't until like 8 o'clock at night, I realized forcing myself on the deadline was good. And I did some napkin maths for how long it would take me to do that again. So I just sort of broke down what I did, how long it took me, how I spent the couple of days I spent working on that video, like just trying to see if I could do that again. And that small bit of work, bit of thinking about that, changed the gears in my head and made me feel 10 times better. And it made me feel so much better than I just sat down and I wrote this script. It was written on the 15th of December, by the way, so about almost 10 days ago, 9 days ago. And this isn't me giving you a sob story or anything like that. Being able to make YouTube videos for a living is an absolute blessing, one of the many I don't deserve. And I feel like it's my duty to behave in a way that makes me more deserving of it. So I don't write these videos to complain about my life or anything like that. I do it to elaborate on the processes I use to try and improve my workflow. One of the things is actually starting the day is often the hardest thing for me. Even on days I'm feeling good, just sitting down and starting is often the hardest part, getting the ball rolling, the momentum going. There's another saying that goes around crack tech head X sometimes. It's, if you're tired, do it tired. And I tell myself that whenever I feel tired, and I usually feel tired in the morning because I don't think I sleep very well. And it helps a lot. The one thing that I think more people need to do is to start working on what they want to see in the world. Because I know that once I just started working on stuff, it's really started changing my own life and the lives of people around me. But one of the points I wanted to make in this video was that having crunch periods like I had was really, really fun. It was invigorating to focus solely on a single thing non-stop for days. Look, it's probably a little bit of escapism, to be honest, but useful escapism. You know, people complain about escapism with like playing games for like, a weekend straight. You do nothing but play a game. That's not useful. Working on a project like this is useful because, it's my job. I make money from it. And, a little bit of escapism now and then isn't that bad, right? But it also helped me, so that crunch time also helped me optimize my workflow. I had to really think hard about doing things fast. So for example, my standard workflow for recording voiceover is this. I record a section, usually 2 or 3 pages of script, listen back to it, re-record any errors. Then later, I put all the voiceover in my editing software and cut out the silences, cut out any bad takes, and then splice together the re-recorded takes with the original. This process requires listening to a recording twice. So if the script is an hour long to read, that's 3.5 hours, or usually closer to 4 minimum time to record and process it. It's a lot of work. And often while I'm writing it, what I did for this latest video crunch was record and then throw the recording into my editing software straight away. So I was fixing errors while listening back to seeing what needed to be recorded. So fixing errors as in removing any double takes. So I'll read something, mess it up, and then just reread it straight away. And that cut down a lot of time. But I also found a really good program for automatically removing silences. So my editing software, DaVinci Resolve, is really good and I absolutely love it. And I genuinely owe a significant part of my success to DaVinci Resolve, and I can't recommend it enough, but it does have some issues. They're often pretty odd issues too. So this issue in particular is it has an option for automatically removing silences, but there's no settings for it. So it often cuts off the end of words or cuts a word too close because you can't change how far after a word it should cut off. There's no settings for it. It's bizarre. So I found an external program called Recut, which was really good. This isn't sponsored, by the way, but I do recommend checking them out if you need to cut out a lot of silences from a video. So all my optimizations all up, I reckon I saved about 3 hours of very tedious work, including cutting out silences. That's super tedious. Just from changing around my process a little bit, I saved a significant amount of work. Mr. Beast, who I can now talk about again since all the allegations were cleared, I think. Most of them were. Recommended a book called The Goal. It's a book about a manufacturing plant manager overhauling the systems to make more money. But the ideas can apply to anyone making anything. The core question the book asks is, what is your goal? Why are you doing what you're doing? Usually the answer is to make money, but you also have to think of how, right? So in the manufacturing plant, you're making money by manufacturing machine parts, whatever it is you're making. For me, my goal is making videos, making money, telling stories through YouTube videos. So how do I do that better and faster? What are the major things that are slowing me down? So I'm usually asking myself, I ask myself that a lot. So I'm always asking myself that. And even then I could easily find some slack to cut when I did this crunch time. In game development, they have a thing called a post-mortem, where they write a list of 5 things that went right and 5 things that went wrong during the game's development. It's a useful tool for pointing out issues like this, issues in your processes to fix next time. But also the positives about your workflow too, I think are pretty useful to consider out. To make sure you do them again. For video production, it's hard to forget because, you do a video, I do a video like once every 3 weeks on average, I think it is. So it's hard to forget when I do something right. But even then I have forgotten, like how I wrote my script for Logic, for the Logic video, right? So the standard way to write it is to write down description of what's happening, then an analysis, and then theories. And then I wrote that script, and then I went back and I shuffled it all around so that the analysis and the theories were woven into the description of what was happening, and it made the whole thing flow a lot better. I forgot to do that in future videos. So I forgot to do that in my No, I'm Not a Human video, and that obviously didn't affect the success of it very much, but it'd still be a better video if I did that. I did forget to do that, so it is worth considering what went right and what went wrong, even with relatively shorter time frame projects. Compared to like a AAA video game, which could take like 5 years, it'd be easy to forget when you did something right, But yeah, so what else did I do to optimize? So there was this small thing, actually. I started watching the editing timeline at 2 times speed, particularly at the start when I'm laying down tracks. So, like I said before, laying down tracks is super simple stuff. Like when you watch through the first time and there's a part you're talking about Lagarde, so then you put down a picture of Lagarde. When you're talking about Pocket Cat, you put down the footage of your character talking to Pocket Cat, right? Simple stuff. It's a way to, it's an easy way to fill up space in a video, which is useful for when your videos are an hour long. But it's also a great tool for defeating writer's block, editor's block. So whenever you're making something, the first question is always, what do I put here? And your brain can sometimes struggle to figure out what to put there, right? So if you put down anything at all, it doesn't matter what, the question changes from what do I do to how do I make this better? And sometimes that is a harder question to answer, but it gives your brain another grip on the problem. So remember that your brain is a problem-solving tool, but sometimes it just needs a little time to come up with a solution. Sometimes it needs to put a problem on the back burner until a solution comes bubbling up, and that's all video editing and all other creative work really is just a million little problems to be solved in a row. The good thing is that if you're struggling with one problem, you've probably got an easier one to solve, so you can work on that instead for a while. If you leave the harder problem for a bit, you can let your brain try and figure it out for you and come back later. And that's pretty much what I do. I lay down the tracks to get a base, and since the problem is solved, that takes the pressure away and your brain doesn't worry. It lets your brain play a little bit more and come up with different and fun solutions. Because now, you're not trying to solve the problem, you've already solved it. You just need to improve it. At this point, I just basically rewatch the video and fix up anything I can over and over until the video's done. So there's usually 3 main passes. There's laying down the tracks, the very first one, the improving pass, and then the final pass. The improving pass is where the bulk of the editing work is done, because that's where there is the biggest gap between what is currently in the video and what you can improve. And there will still be big issues, and you'll recognize there's specific problems that will need to be solved. And it's at this point when you start playing whack-a-mole and target specific spots in the video to improve. And after all that, there might still be some problems that you couldn't work out how to solve. In fact, there will be problems that you can't work out how to solve because you can't make anything perfect. If you think your video or whatever it is you're making doesn't have problems, that means you just can't see them. And that's no longer a problem of skill, that's a problem of taste, which actually is skill. So for example, the parts where I read Pocket Cat's speeches, I don't like them at all from an editing standpoint. And in fact, I cut some of them out because they were too slow and I couldn't work out how to improve them. So there were still problems left in there. And so this video I think is far from perfect. Honestly, I don't, all of my videos, looking back, there's big flaws in them that some of them I know how to fix, some of them I don't. Like at the moment, I currently do not know how to fix those editing, the editing of the sections with Pocket Cat speeches. I simply don't know how to. The solutions will come to you if you have more time, but you need to put a video out or whatever it is you're working on, you got to put it out sometime, right? It has to be finished. You can't just sit there until it's perfect because it's never going to be perfect. Oh, right. I also plugged a second monitor into my laptop, which really sped up finding resources. So this video in particular, probably more than almost every other video I've made, the Pocket Cat video, it was really eclectic in the topics it covered. Because Pocket Cat himself jumps around a lot in the games, and he does a lot of different things, but also I talked about Rare and the Moon Scorch and a whole bunch of different stuff. In terms of raw resources used in the video, it's probably one of the biggest I've made, to be honest. And having the second monitor open so I can jump around between folders, finding footage and images and whatnot, that was mandatory basically, than having a single screen. Having a second monitor is really tricky though. It's an insane productivity hack, but it can one-shot you if you're not careful. And if you're the sort of person just throwing Netflix or something on it. So you've got to be really careful not to be distracted. I only have my second monitor plugged in when I'm working if I have a specific reason why, if I can justify it. Usually what I do is I'll put the Pomodoro timer up on one side and then I'll put like the music, whatever I'm listening to on the monitor. I have it cut in half, have something on one half and something on the other half, and like have images or script or whatever up on the other side. But in general, yes, the important thing is to sit down and do the work, right? All these productivity hacks are nothing if you're not doing anything, right? It's the productivity hacks are a multiplier, they're improvements on something. But if you're not doing anything, it doesn't matter. For some people, like, yes, there are legitimate reasons why they can't just sit there and grind it out, or maybe they need to be careful or what have you. But for most people, you can just do it. And you should just do it. Like consider what you're doing right now, right? How much time do you spend on social media or Netflix or whatever? Like if you just want to veg out sometimes, that's fine. But if you're the kind of person who dreams about making something cool one day, you should start right now. Right now. If you're tired after your day job and only have 30 minutes to spare, well, do it tired in that 30 minutes. The late great Terry Pratchett, author of the Discworld novels, do youth know more for good omens these days? I don't know. Anyway, he got his start by forcing himself to write 300 words a day, every day, while working a full-time job. When he finished writing his first book, he stacked his pages very neatly, put it aside, and then started the next one so he would hit his 300 words for that day. Like, if you want to write a book, if you want to make YouTube videos, take photos, whatever it is you want to do, just do it. And you should, because no one's going to do it for you, right? If there's something you want to see in the world, then you've got to make it. And again, if you're tired, do it tired. Look, so I know these videos sometimes have a pseudo-inspirational note like that, but honestly, these videos are for me. I'm not trying to give out advice. I'm more explaining what I'm doing and trying to organize it in my head. I used to hand out advice about things that I know nothing about a lot, which was pretty dumb and frankly embarrassing. So now I only try to talk about things I know more about. And I like yapping. So I felt better in the hour writing this script than I did all that entire day. I think work is very good for the soul. I think in a former life I would have been like a tradesman, like a stonemason or a blacksmith or something. But yes, thank you very much for watching. Remember that the best way to support the channel is through Patreon, where you can get your name in the credits. You can see scripts, early previews, and even videos a week earlier than the public. Thank you again for watching. My name is More They Do, and you've been watching Behind the Myths, Alone in the Shadows 2, Moddy Do edition.